All right. So this is Manual for Teachers, Chapter 9. Are changes required in the life situation of God's teachers? However, or briefly, quickly, Chapter 8. How can the perception of orders of difficulty and healing be avoided? The one recently done here. And there was a lot there, but yet it's really should be just simply said again real quick. That there are no order of difficulties in miracles, and conversely, there are no order of illusions. Illusions are illusions. Miracles are truth. Forgiveness are as such. There's no order. So, are changes required in the life situation of God's teachers? This is asked a lot. Changes are required in the minds of God's teachers. This may or may not involve changes in the external situation. Remember that no one is where he is by accident, and chance plays no part in God's plan. So changes are required in the minds of God's teachers. Obviously, that's what this whole book course message is all about. Atonement, forgiveness, accept the atonement for yourself. Bring the voice for God to others, especially for those who cannot or will not or refuse to hear it for themselves, or it's too fearful for them to hear it for themselves. And so that's what we do. And so this whole business about remember that no one is where he is by accident, and chance plays no part in God's plan. Those who we can best work with, we will meet with them, and those who can best teach us what we would learn, we will meet with them. It is most unlikely that changes in his attitudes within his current situation would not be the first step in the newly made teacher of God's training. So true perception on what's actually going on and why, it should become more clear that the perception would be things are perhaps the way they are for a reason. So let's see here. There is, however, no set pattern, since training is always highly individualized. There are those who are called upon to change their life situation almost immediately, but these are generally special cases. Special cases indeed. Unusual is really what it comes down to. It's not necessary unless there were specific purposes required. And I don't think it should speak one way or another to the teacher. It doesn't matter. So by far, the majority are given a slowly evolving training program in which as many previous perceptual mistakes as possible are corrected, to maximize usefulness. Relationships in particular must be properly perceived, and all dark cornerstones of unforgiveness removed. Otherwise, the old thought system has a basis for return. So the Manual for Teachers is great, and you should definitely go through the text, but I think, without going through the lessons, that's a bigger part of actually the perceptual change that you're looking for, practicing it. And then utilizing those principles in your daily life, looking for their application, speaking to your voice for God, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. All right. As the teacher of God advances in his training, he learns one lesson with increasing thoroughness. He does not make his own decisions. He asks his teacher for his answer. He asks his teacher, capital T, for his answer. And it is this he follows as his guide for action. So exactly what I was saying. You just keep more and more increasingly turn to the voice for God, or whatever you want to call it, higher power stuff, grace, quiet voice within. All right, this becomes easier and easier as the teacher of God learns to give up his own judgment. Relinquishing judgment is highly freeing. In here it talks elsewhere, one of my favorite parts, and I don't remember where it is, but how, when you're turning to God, Holy Spirit, whatever, for guidance in what you do, you're absolved of all guilt and responsibility of the outcome. And so this definitely is why it becomes easier and easier for to give up your own judgment. The giving up of judgment, the obvious prerequisite for hearing God's voice, is usually a fairly slow process. Not because it is difficult, but because it is apt to be perceived as personally insulting. One of my favorite lines in the course. Something that I've been puzzling over, mulling over, processing, and experiencing. It's like, hey, I've been studying this, and I'm doing all this great stuff, and I've got all this going on, and I've really gotten to this great part. What do you want me to do? You just want me to go over here and do that? I could do like really cool stuff, right? No, just do this. So just push this broom for a little bit, huh? Just talk to this person over here. Okay. It's that kind of stuff. So it's a slow process, not because it is difficult, but because it is apt to be perceived as personally insulting. And it turns out that those are some of the most intrinsic special functions of accepting the atonement for yourself. Is what's seemingly minutia is this whole bit about I need add nothing to God's plan, but in order to receive it, I must not place my own in front of it, kind of thing. So the world's training is directed towards achieving a goal in direct opposition to that of our curriculum. The world trains for reliance on one's judgment as the criterion for maturity and strength. Our curriculum trains for the relinquishment of judgment as the necessary condition for salvation. It all comes down to the relinquishment of seeming self goals, and really they're just selfish goals. So we join we take our special function given to us by our higher power, whatever it is, and that is the only vocation worth doing. And I think that's it on this one.